Um, Hello and welcome to another episode of our AXA XL construction podcast. I'm Ron Lagman, Senior Risk Engineer with our SDI team here at AXA XL. Today we're meeting and talking with Document Crunch, one of our key partners in our ecosystem here at AXA XL. So with me today is Kyle Dunga. So Kyle comes to us from Document Crunch, and Kyle, we've gotten to connect over the past year or so, with customers as well as events like at ERMI and Super Conference. It's been great to meet you, and we've kind of formed a little bond here, just based a little bit also on our cultural background, right? Both being Filipino Americans, so it's been good to meet with you and work with you. But maybe you can tell a little bit about yourself to our listeners here today.
Sure, Ron. Thank you for the intro. And yeah, I've been very happy that we've been able to spend time together at these events, right? Looking forward to more of them. So my name is Kyle. I'm with Document Crunch, and my title here is Head of Industry Solutions. And really, what all that means is there are pain points when it comes to reviewing contracts and also complying with contracts when it's time to actually start building stuff, right? We're very mindful of that and aware of that. And so really is we just look to how can we bring technology into this game to therefore make it much easier, this process of handling contracts much more easier for users or for anyone in the construction industry, right? Anyone who's charged with having to touch a contract, put eyes on a contract, right? So that's what we do.
Got it. And so who are some of your target customers? I know we do share some mutual clients in the construction industry, but who or what types of customers does Document Crunch reach out to particularly?
This is going to sound cliche, but when I say everyone, I literally mean everyone, right? So anyone and everyone who has a responsibility with a contract, who has to put eyes on it, who has to review it, who has to put something in it, that's who we look to help and serve, right? So yeah, it's everyone from top to bottom.
Got it. That's great. So not just construction companies, but other companies can utilize your product and service as well.
Yeah, so construction is our bread and butter. So our co-founders, they're both construction attorneys by trade. Between the two of them, they have about 30 plus years of experience. So they know the ins and outs, the pains of having to deal with construction contracts, litigation, should it ever get to that point, right? So our bread and butter is construction, but we definitely have been looking to how else we can serve adjacent markets to that.
Got it. And Kyle, you yourself are a lawyer as well, so you're familiar with what to look out for, and when we talk about how to mitigate and minimize risks, especially when it comes to contracts.
Yeah, that's
Um,
exactly right. So I went to law school here in Miami, University of Miami, and originally, like when I was even before I even got into construction and construction contracts, I was already exploring the space of legal tech, right? So I've had this sort of idea that tech was starting to come on scene and also conflate with legal, and then kind of see how the two work with each other. But so therefore, when Adam Hanfinger, one of the co-founders for Document Crunch, approached me and he was like, "Hey, we're looking to start a startup company. We're going to use like AI for construction contracts. Would that be of interest to you?" I'm like, Absolutely." Just knowing what I knew already about like where legal tech was going, I'm like, "Yeah, let's make it happen." Right. So that was my gateway into really just in construction. Also, like it was by way of reviewing contracts and whatnot.
Right. And I've got to work with Adam speaking at Super Conference on a panel with him. So shout out to Adam Handfinger at
That's right.
Picard and Abramson. That's a great opportunity and a great event that we put on. So what we here at SDI at XXL, we've also partnered with Document Crunch in creating a contract benchmark, which is maybe new to some of our customers as well, right? We've been doing benchmarks for our customers for a number of years now, just being able to help them look at various aspects of their risk management programs, everything from improving their quality programs to looking at their schedules, as well as their pre-qualification, right? So bringing Document Crunch to analyze and look at contracts is new, but probably an important aspect when it comes to risk mitigation and risk management. As you could probably tell everyone better than I could, how the contract does transfer that risk and protects our insureds as well as their projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And this benchmarking service has been in effect now since 21. So I guess 2.5, 3 years since, right? And really, in a nutshell, what it is like, so XXL, you guys have your clients, your insureds, right? You want to, and as you're insuring them, you want to make sure that the contracts they're signing up to are as risk proof or risk free as possible, right? I mean, we know that's not always entirely possible, right? You know, there's going to be some give and take here between the negotiating parties, right? But anyways, XXL leverages document crunch to therefore have a way to look into these contracts that your customers are signing, right? So for example, in this service, we ask for at least no more than 10, right? So maybe anything less than that, but at least we try to get 10 so we have a good sampling of it. We take those contracts, we put it to document crunch, and we search for about 10 or 11 provisions, right? And these provisions were selected by you guys, by AXA XL, and what you guys care most about when looking for these provisions in your clients' contracts. And also, you guys have also provided us with a grading criteria for each of those provisions, right? So you have a something for what would dictate a what's a good provision if it's written in a certain way, what would be medium slash okay or meets industry standards, and also below that, you know, if it should be deficient or needs improvement, there's also a criteria for that, right? So in practice, the way that works is take the contracts, put it to document crunch, see what the AI finds, and then now try and match what that provision says to any one of those three criteria that we just mentioned, and get a grade from there, right? And then after you do all 10, you generate a final report at the end. We submit it back to your team. So in this case, I've been working very close with Sherry Haynes, Mark Bird, Damon also, and we give it to them. And then, you know, they take the results, they put the findings together, and they craft their own specialized tailored recommendations, so that therefore we then get another call with this customer, this client, and be like, hey, this is what we found during the benchmarking. Here are the areas where you did great, and here are some areas where we can do better, right? And then from there, we have a great discussion of, okay, what happened here? What can we do next? How can we be better at this? And really, it's been very, very great in my own opinion,
Mhm.
right? So we again, we've done this since 2021, and even some of the more robust companies out there who believe they know what they're signing, oftentimes, you know, they have a great idea what's in their contracts, right? But like when you see a report of the 10 contracts from the last 3 years, that's also another element to this, right? It's 10 contracts from the last 3 years. When you just see a whole like a pie chart, a little chart showing what you've been signing on to these past 3 years, sometimes you'd be like, whoa, we did that? Oh shoot, right? So it's an opportunity to be like, aha, okay, here's a way to be better about these kind of things.
Right, it kind of dashboards or brings to like different types of risks that these contracts have taken on. No, that's great information to know. And how many different types of contracts can it review? Can Document Crunch review, and what types of contracts, specifically owner contracts or anything like that? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we can take in any construction contract, right? So regardless if it's owner, if it's a GC, if it's a trade contractor, if it touches on construction provisions, construction concepts, construction clauses, we'll take it in.
Yeah, that's fantastic to know. And the best way to reach out to Document Crunch if some of our insureds or customers may be interested in trying out one of these benchmarks or learning more about Document Crunch, what's the best way that they could do that?
Yeah, yeah, several ways. So you can start by going to our website. It's simply www.documentcrunch.com. And then there's a little module there in the bottom right where you can have someone reach out to you for a demo or for a call. Or please reach out to me directly if you'd like to, right? I'll post my details in the podcast details after we post this recording. But for now, it's just it's K Dunca at documentcrunch.com. So that's KDUNGCA at documentcrunch.com, and then you can get right to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Or if I don't have an answer to it, I'll know the right person to point you to. So
Yeah, that's great. And if any of our SDI customers or AXA XL customers are interested in the benchmark for the contract benchmark service, they could reach out to their risk engineer here at AXA XL as well, and we'll be
yeah,
able to provide that information, put you in touch with them as well. No, that's great information to know. Thanks for providing that. So we're recording this podcast in the month of May, which is also Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. All right, so As we mentioned earlier, we both share similar cultural backgrounds as Filipino Americans, right? But Kyle, maybe tell me a little bit about yourself personally, like where your family's from in the Philippines, and where you were born, and your background.
Sure. Um, so family wise, right? So my mom was the first of us to come here to the States, and she came here in 1978, right? She had just graduated from nursing school in the Philippines, and during this time in the 70s, there was a huge recruiting campaign for nurses to come over to the States, right? Because there was a need. There was a shortage for nurses here, and there was a need, right? So my mom got recruited by her agency, and she actually had two options of cities to come to before coming here, right? So she was given the option of Miami Beach, Florida, which is where we are now, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, right? So two very different climates. But I'd like to say I'm glad she picked the right city. I'm not gonna say it's a better city. I don't want to offend any of our Minneapolis listeners here, but for me, the for in our family, my family, the right choice. So
Oh,
and
that's great to
then
know.
yeah, and then from there, right? So my dad shortly there followed after her. He had a career as a professional basketball player in the Philippines, so he was doing that thing. But of course, you got to follow your heart, right? So he followed his true love over to the States, giving up his dream of playing basketball professionally in the Philippines, and came over here, right? And then from there, they had my first brother, or my the eldest brother, in 80, and then they had my middle brother in 87, and they had me in 92, and then yeah, it's been here ever since. But actually, when I was born in 92, we moved back to the Philippines in 93. So when I was one for 5 years. So effectively, I grew up in the Philippines,
Oh,
learned the language, immersed myself in the culture. But then in 98, we came back and then also to South Florida and have been here ever since, right? So from schooling all the way through law school and until my career with Document Crunch got started, been a South Florida boy through all that.
oh, that's fantastic. So your first language was Tagalog.
My first language was Tagalog. That's right. So when we came back here in '98, I was about, I think, 6 years old. I was in the first grade, and I don't have any memory of this anymore. But I just can't even imagine what it must have been like for me, like not knowing the English language at that time, and then having to adjust to that. But I'm thankful that luckily, I guess I figured out a way to learn English too. So
Oh, that's great. And then you mentioned you did go to college in Miami as well as law school.
that's right. So for undergrad, I went to University of Miami. I was pre-med, right? But then towards the end of graduation, I'm like, maybe let's not do this anymore. And then, of course, that was a big deal. My mom, she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" I'm like, "Oh, a bunch of my friends are going to law school. Maybe I'll take the LSAT next year and let's see what happens there." Right? Took the LSAT, then ended up going to law school, also at University of Miami. And then yeah, spent my 3 years there. Took my bar exam, and from there, rolled right into Document Crunch to start my professional career. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great to know. And so you currently reside in South Florida still.
Yeah, still in South Florida, still here, families all over South Florida too, so we're down here, so.
Guys, so maybe describe the local Filipino community there. How is that
Yeah,
currently?
so here it's definitely not there is definitely a population here. There's a good crew here, but it's definitely not to the same levels as you'd find on the West Coast or in the Northeast, right? Like South Florida is just not a premier destination if you're coming from the Philippines to the States. However, there are still plenty of us around here, right? So it's a small but very good tight-knit community. Um Everyone knows each other, and true to Filipino culture, everyone's willing to help each other, to help each other make sure you get situated. And if anything's ever going on, they want to make sure they're there to help you and support you in any way they can. So it's a good. So actually, let me ask you. So I'll ask you also how the Filipino culture is in the Northeast. But before that, I want to hear about your family's journey to the States, and a little bit more about you too.
Yeah, great question. So I was actually born in the Philippines, and moved to the United States when I was one. So it's kind of like reverse
Yeah,
from your
right.
experience. My family moved to New Jersey. My grandma moved. She was the first to immigrate from her family, probably like around the 70s. And she worked as a seamstress in a sewing factory in Hoboken, New Jersey. And then she brought pretty much all her family to the United States, where we grew up in New Jersey. So I currently live in Princeton, have moved around a little bit, both on the West Coast and here on the East Coast. I studied civil engineering in New Jersey at Stevens Tech, and later got my MBA at UNC Chapel Hill, and then worked in the construction industry for probably about 15 or so years, for general contractors as well as construction managers and on the owner side as well. So after that, I did transition into the insurance side, where I now work in our construction group with our SDI team. So that's kind of how I ended up here on the insurance side as well.
So did you always know or had an idea that you would end up in construction in some way or form?
Yeah, I think as engineer, especially as a civil engineer, you
Yeah.
already know that,
You're
or
yeah, that's all you do, right? It's all you're
yeah, I know.
immersed
I
in.
know I couldn't program, and
That's
my
right.
dad had worked in the construction side as well, so it was kind of like in my DNA. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a great opportunity, and I've enjoyed pretty much every minute of it.
Oh, that's great. So here we are.
Yeah. So maybe we can close. And do you have any advice for, some of our younger generations that might be listening, or, our younger generations looking to, start their career, or attend law school, perhaps just like you did?
Yeah, I mean, if I can sum it up in maybe a few thoughts or one sentence, it's really just like the opportunities are out there, right? And you just have to be the one to put the effort in to go ahead and find it and take it and actually make it yours, right? So there's a lot of distractions out there and a lot of things that can pull you sideways. Like, okay, maybe you want to do this, maybe you want to do that. That's fine, right? But like, just keep in mind that success is what you want to achieve, right? So if you have that in your long distance, roadmap in your head there, just guide yourself and orient yourself to that. And I think you'll be able to find happy. Well, I'm not gonna say happiness, but like, yeah, success, right? A great opportunities to be successful. There you go. That's a better way to say it.
Yeah, that's great.
How about you?
Um, Yeah, I'd say the same thing, as well as, just keep an eye, an open mind, throughout your career. As I mentioned, my career kind of took me down different paths, but all those experiences really are what are gonna, kind of make you a better professional at the end of the day. So yeah, I think that's what I would offer for advice.
No, and actually, to that, that's a great point because you just made me realize, like, yeah, don't be afraid to change paths when you think you need to, right? Like, for example, I just mentioned I was pre-med all through undergrad, and then maybe a week or two before graduation, I decided, like, all right, I don't think I want to do this anymore, and so I spent some time, making sure I was comfortable with that idea, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do something else, right? And then yeah,
Mhm.
so don't be
Great.
scared.
Great. No, that's great advice. So Kyle, thanks so much for your time today. So if any of our listeners are interested in learning more about Document Crunch, feel free to check out their website or reach out to Kyle. So thanks for
Thank
joining.
you, Ron.
All right, take care. Thank you.